The world around us is changing. The pace of development is so exciting. If you're a small startup, you can now go and compete with incumbents. If you're an incumbent, you can get your team to work on incredible moonshots. But I say grounded because I think a lot of us are losing ourselves in the hype, right? We're planning to play the game. We're doing all the buzzy stuff, but AI is still just a tool. It'll be a supercharged productivity tool, and we'll have information at our fingertips. But the way we show up with one another, the way we carry ourselves, our ability to communicate, ironically, this is not even me Yoodli pitching, is all the more important now than it ever was. And I hope as we get into this weird future with God knows what possibilities AI can unlock, we still maintain our humanity and our groundedness.
Hi, I'm Boaz, founder and CEO of Augmented AI Labs, and I'm excited that you're tuning in to the Shift AI podcast, a show that explores what it takes to thrive and adapt to the changing workplace in the digital age of remote work and AI. In today's episode, I'm thrilled to welcome back Varun Puri for his second appearance on the show. As the founder of Yoodli, Varun has been on an incredible journey since we last spoke, transforming his consumer-focused public speaking tool into an enterprise powerhouse that's now working with dozens of Fortune 50 companies. From his early days running special projects for Sergey Brin at Google to building what he calls the Grammarly for speech, Varun brings authentic insights into the roller coaster ride of startup life. If you're interested in the evolution of AI startups, the challenges of pivoting from consumer to enterprise, or how young founders navigate the complexity of scaling a company, you are not going to want to miss this episode. We also want to send out a special thank you to Augmented AI Labs for sponsoring this episode. This is going to be a great show, and we're super excited to catch up with Varun today and learn how Yoodli has evolved over the past year. Let's get to it. All right, Varun, you are back on the Shift AI podcast. It is great to have you back again. There's lots to talk about.
Likewise, I'm honored to get an invite back. I was sure you never wanted to hear from me after last time, but this is great.
Well, we should get some of the audience that didn't see the episode before, just kind of give them a little bit of backstory. There's been some changes and some excitement and new opportunities. So maybe just let's ground ourselves a little bit in the story of Yoodli and your background a little bit.
Yeah, my quick background is I'm Varun. I grew up in India, came to the US for college. I was at Google. I ran special projects for Sergey Brin. And then I left that to start Yoodli. I'm going through the startup roller coaster. I'm still trying to figure out if that was the best or the worst decision that I've ever made. But the dream behind Yoodli is too many smart people struggle to speak with confidence. How do we help them out and be the Grammarly for speech? We've now been doing this for 2.5 years, where we've taken some wins, we've taken some face punches, and I'm now doing my second version of the same podcast.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Well, the first time around, a lot of it was around consumers and helping people be better public speakers and using the technology to listen to what they said and give them and score them basically and give them advice on how they can be better. How are things evolving and what did the market say? This has been a year since we last talked.
It's a great question. It's taken a direction that I didn't quite expect, to be honest. No, the vision behind Yoodli, it still remains the same, is anytime you have an upcoming speech, come and practice, and Yoodli will be your smart mirror, and Yoodli will give you some really good feedback on your gesture, posture, body language, but also your content and the structure of your speech. What was really interesting is we saw people use Yoodli for a whole host of applications, not just speeches, but interviews and dating conversations and upcoming investor pitches and sales conversations and salary negotiations and doctors practicing difficult conversations with patients. And one of our insights from that was this application of public speaking is actually much, much, much broader. We are public speaking in some ways all the time. What Yoodli is trying to do is help you be a better communicator. It doesn't matter where you're speaking. So we've expanded to this notion of Yoodli AI role plays. Role plays for a roommate negotiation, role plays for a crucial conversation at work, and so forth.
Yeah. It's interesting, the kind of role play idea in the form of video, right? Like I'd use ChatGPT and Claude to role play all the time before I go into a situation where I'm not sure exactly how I want to navigate that. And having a tool that allows me to put a past speech or just talk to it, or and that analyzes not just the words that I use, but the way that I appear, how I say things, when I pause, and factor that into the role playing, I think is quite interesting.
Touche. I think Claude and ChatGPT are very sophisticated now, but building role plays as a category, especially for the enterprise, requires so much customization.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I should now be able to tell Yoodli, look, I'm practicing this sales call with the CIO of Shift AI, and he's in a really good mood. So make sure to give him a compliment and remember to talk about your last podcast. And Yoodli can really take on your customer persona and then give you feedback in your own methodology.
Yeah.
One of the things that's been super interesting for me is everyone has their own methodology in giving feedback. Sandler Sales, Korn Ferry, Franklin Covey, Google, me when I give my friends feedback. You can now input your methodology into Yoodli. Yoodli will take on that persona and give feedback in some ways in your voice.
So, I think I mentioned this to you previously about some of the stuff that we did when I was at Meta for the sales teams. There was a lot of coaching involved with new salespeople, how to get them ramped up quickly. And I want you to take us through some of the ways that you're deploying this now. And I know you are working with a lot of go-to-market teams. So how does this show up for the managers and for the folks that are getting trained in a situation of a practice session?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we're now working with dozens of Fortune 50 companies. First off, it's been interesting to see role plays across the enterprise, right? There's new pricing, there's new packaging, there's an acquisition, you have a new sales methodology, you're launching a new AI product. How do you get your CS team to talk about it? In the status quo, your GTM reps are likely watching passive content on an LMS. They are likely doing some kind of manager-led role play that's highly time consuming, not scalable, and most importantly, not consistent. Or you're hiring an external vendor to do a 2-day workshop, which again can only help so many people. The way we are shaping Yoodli is as an augmentation of all of that. So you can come in and create as many role plays as you want that scale across the org. So obviously we are heavily focused on GTM, role plays for cold calls, for STR onboarding, difficult conversations with your manager when it comes to deal review, pitch certification after sales kickoff, an obvious use case. But then there are more broad role plays for media training, right? Or you've got an upcoming keynote, how do you practice? Manager compliance training, partner enablement, and more.
Yeah, that's amazing. So tell me more about the journey since we last talked. And, I know there's a lot of listeners that either are founders, want to leave their big company and become founders. And we all know there's a lot of ups and downs, but you're living it right now. And I want to hear a little bit about the journey.
I'll start with some of the downs. My dream is always that Yoodli should be this massive consumer company that's a household name that everyone uses to practice. And we are now getting pulled from the enterprise, which is really exciting. There's obviously much larger budgets there, but figuring out how to balance consumer and enterprise is tough. The second is I've never done enterprise sales before, especially not with companies at the scale of a Google, where procurement takes forever and legal can be really challenging. Building this enterprise sales mindset, go-to-market, and team is wicked hard, right? There's buy-in from a whole set of stakeholders. I had always thought you land the deal, it's great. At the enterprise, we now have to build an entire CSM org and make sure these premium clients are serviced really well. So that's been challenging. But I think the general gist of we are building this horizontal play of role plays that work for any use case while still being laser focused on supporting our top clients is always has trash. And this is a struggle we've had from the start of time. And I think we'll crack it one day, but I don't want us to abandon our original vision.
Yeah. And you guys are, the stage you're in, you've raised seed money. You're moving into kind of a Series A round at some point. How many people do you have now? What's the speed of scale look like for you?
Yeah, we are just over 20 full-time, and then we have a handful of contractors. I've been torn on the Series A, to be honest. There's been interest, and we could raise, but we have runway. There's interesting momentum. So my gut says, why not ride it out for as long as we can and see where the market takes us, and essentially raise from a place of strength and raise when we want to, as opposed to playing the whole Gen AI buzz and whatnot, because fundraising is time consuming and emotionally exhausting.
And now, before we dive deeper, I want to take a quick moment and tell you a little bit about one of our podcast partners. As a listener of this show, I know you're trying to stay on top of all things AI and tech, which is why you have to check out the amazing GeekWire podcast, produced by GeekWire and hosted by Todd Bishop. It's a treasure of insights featuring industry leaders and the latest tech trends that are shaping our world. It's the perfect companion podcast to Shift AI. GeekWire podcast is where technology meets curiosity and covers the world of technology, startups, and geek culture. Expand your tech horizons and join the conversation. Tune into the GeekWire podcast today, a perfect complement to our own discussions here. Don't miss out. Follow the GeekWire podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite listening app. Now back to the episode. Well, it's pretty exciting kind of where you guys are going with this, and it is interesting to hear some of the challenges in the enterprise. So maybe take us, so those are some of the downsides. So what are some of the upsides?
Personally, it feels like the dream is coming true, right? There's enough not working, but I'm like, oh my God. I was at an airport a few weeks ago and someone saw my Yoodli jacket and said, hey, did you practice your interview on Yoodli? And I was like, I did. How do you know? And they were like, oh my God, I use this tool. Like, that's so bucket listy. The fact that we're working with many of the world's biggest companies, a lot of whom are reaching out inbound, is super exciting. We haven't spent anything on marketing, and there's this word of mouth thing going, which is awesome. We've been very deliberate about culture. I think the folks on our team are just having so much fun. Our biggest ethos at Yoodli is try a bunch of things. It's okay if we look silly. It's okay if there are bugs, but let's just have fun and not get bogged down by the lows of startup life. Building it with this group of people has been an absolute blast. I think I'm also starting to get the sense of founder life, in that I'm by no means an expert, but now when I take one of those face punches, I'm like, oh, I've experienced this feeling before. Or, hey, if I take a little bit of time off to just unwind, we now have a team that's also supporting this company. And 1 year ago, I think my attitude was very different.
Yeah. Did you feel kind of alone a year ago? Like everything had to be done by you, or you were the kind of driving energy?
Yes, but more than that, it was a state of frenzy, right? Oh my God, it's life or death. I think now it feels like this Yoodli thing is here to stay in some shape or form. I don't know where it's going to go, but I believe it's real-ish. And now it's like, can we catapult this to something much, much bigger? And I think as a result of that, Boaz, what's been interesting is we're also taking bigger bets. And that's really exciting. Rather than changing things at the margin, we're like, let's shoot for the moon. This will probably be a failure, but if one of these 10 shots lands, gold.
What kind of, you said you didn't spend a lot of money on marketing yet. Is that going to be one of your bets? Have you been thinking a lot about that? And how are you going to go to market in the enterprise in an interesting way?
It's a good question. First off, I love the product-led growth and word-of-mouth strategies. This always happens, even in the enterprise. Someone uses our product, they use it for sales pitch, and they're like, oh my God, but my kid is applying to college right now, and I've been trying to tell them to use this tool. Or, oh, my son has been on TikTok nonstop, and I keep telling him not to use a word like, let me get him to use it. Or medical professionals start using the tool, which is really cool. In terms of our go-to-market, and I've said this from day zero, our focus is on partnering with coaching companies.
Mm-hmm.
When
the
I say
Sandlers
coaching,
of this world, yeah.
Exactly. It could be one of the world's largest coaching companies, a la Sandler, Covey, Korn Ferry, Mind Gym, etc. They take Yoodli, make it their own, bring it to their clients, all the way to a boutique coaching company or a one-person shop, right? And I was a head of L&D at, again, let's say Salesforce. I quit to start my own company, and now I'm training folks. Take Yoodli, make it your own. And I really think we have this symbiotic relationship where Yoodli is not, and I don't think it's ever going to be human level. It can take you from a 0 to an 8, but the oomph of speaking comes from a human coach. So let's use the humans to augment Yoodli, and let's use Yoodli to help that Salesforce person now spread what she's doing to hundreds of people. So a lot of our marketing will be focused on the coaching relationship.
Right. And then in a big firm, it's the L&D teams, but you're going to keep that channel.
Correct.
And so far, you've kept the consumer pricing, right? So I can go in and have my consumer pricing, but then I've got to call me if you want to call me if you're an enterprise pricing.
Yes, and that has backfired so many times in that we've got consumer pricing. We want to have this be as reasonable as possible to get this to as many folks. We've got the call me enterprise price, but then an enterprise procurement team will look at the consumer price and say, well, your per seat pricing is $10 a month or whatever, $20 a month. That's what we expect for the enterprise. I'm like, oh no. Like, I see why companies up their consumer pricing as leverage for enterprise sales. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. So that's been another fun learning.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, one thing, going back to the team and the culture of a startup and kind of what you're going through, the both of us are going to be sitting pretty close to each other soon because we're moving into the AI house in Seattle. Can you talk a little bit about being in the same room with people? Maybe talk a little bit about what you're excited about to move into this new space at the Seattle waterfront and what that means for the team.
Totally. I was just going to say, if I get more Boaz time, that's us winning. That's the entire strategy. Jokes aside, even though that's true, it's this new phase for us. We've been at the AI2 incubator, first just Isha and me, then a handful of folks. And now we will likely be the largest team at this new waterfront property that is absolutely gorgeous. There's a running trail, there's a gym. I'm excited to go for midday bike rides. We've got these large conference rooms now. We have a little event space where we're going to be hosting customers. I just feel like it's the next phase of Yoodli, and I'm really looking forward to it. And in the same vein, it's still a co-working spot. So we'll get to hang out with you and other startups, folks who are a few years ahead of us and behind us. And I think that makes it more fun and gives you perspective.
Before we go further with the interview, I want to tell you about one of our podcast sponsors, Augmented AI Labs, and how they're transforming businesses through intelligent AI solutions. Augmented AI Labs specializes in helping organizations unlock their potential with Gen AI, starting with your most valuable asset, your business knowledge. Their comprehensive process begins by identifying critical workflow challenges and knowledge needs, then building custom solutions that make your company's expertise instantly accessible. The Augmented AI Labs team combines fine-tuning and retrieval methods to ensure your AI solutions truly understand your business context. They thoroughly test and validate each solution, ensuring it delivers measurable value before creating a detailed technical blueprint for deployment. The real beauty of partnering with Augmented AI Labs is that they don't just stop at strategy. They build, deploy, and manage these solutions for you, continuously improving your knowledge systems while you focus on what you do best. If you're ready to transform how your organization leverages AI and knowledge, visit augmentedAIlabs.com and click on the Contact Us button. That's augmentedAIlabs.com. Now back to the episode. Are you hearing from your employees that they want to get back together? I know you guys have a mix, right? People working from home. In terms of we talk a lot about the future of work in terms of remote, and obviously founders and these young startups, everybody wants to be AI first and they're also remote first and so on. But I wonder what the vibe is like with the folks that are signing up to work for you.
Yeah, it's something we've been very deliberate with. So our preference is Seattle first with a hybrid focus. So 3 days in, 2 days out. We do have some GTM folks who are remote. And if we find great talent outside of Seattle, that's fine. But we have this bi-monthly event called Vibes Week. My running joke is everyone comes, we have all of this great conversation and bonding, and nobody does any work whatsoever. But Vibes Week attendance is mandatory. And we have, those 3 to 5 days of supercharged bonding, and then everyone goes back and gets a lot more productive.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that. Vibes Week. That's pretty cool. Well,
Yeah,
I
it's
can
started.
imagine that people want to be together and they want to learn from you and they want to learn from each other.
Totally. And I think Vibes Week is fun because we can be so intentional, right? We'll talk about what's not working at the team
Yeah.
or parts about our culture we want to change. Or the most recent Vibes Week discussion was look, we just hit some revenue goals. You had promised us a fun trip. So we're now planning Disneyland. So next Vibes
Right.
Week will be Disneyland, which is exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Tell me a little bit about kind of, the nature of the team and your growth. I know last time I asked you, are you hiring? And a year ago, it was you were in a different place. And so I don't want to forget because I think there's a lot of people in the audience that are looking to these startups like you and David Shim and people, that are growing. Are you looking for folks? How do people get in touch with you? What kind of things are you looking for? And what's some advice for people that want to work for a startup that's fast growing like yours? Can you talk about some of that?
Yep, great question. I'll start with the latter. The things we look for in hiring is obviously authenticity, vulnerability, humility, be a good person, etc. The one criteria we've added to that is your ability to context switch really fast. So, for instance, we have customers, with 6, 7 figure ACVs and folks who are consumers, and we want to service all of them. And rather than having enterprise grade someone and, mid market, whatever, we're like, you've just got to do it all and be really quick. What that means is you're slacking in the middle of your Zoom, not slacking, you're messaging someone on Slack in the middle of your Zoom call while also being present here, but also you've got your HubSpot integration working really smoothly and GPT taking notes for you. You've got to be super quick with all of these AI hacks and tools. Um, and it's been really clear that if there are folks who are, tech or AI skeptics have struggled at a place like Yoodli because you then have to work so much more to maintain the pace. So context switching is really important. In terms of hiring, yeah, we are doubling our team the size this year. I'm terrified. I'm a first-time manager. I'm figuring out how to do this. But when we talked last year, it was all engineering and Isha and me. Now we are growing our go-to-market org across the board. So we're looking for AEs, for CSMs, for demand gen folks, and engineering roles as well. Please reach out. We are at info@yoodli.ai, and we would love to chat.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want to just kind of end the show talking a little bit about the future. And you're definitely kind of at the tip of the spear thinking about AI. You've been doing it from the beginning of all of this frenzy, and you're talking to big companies. And so when you describe the future of work and the future of AI in 2 words, what are those 2 words this year? And you can elaborate on that too. But yeah, what are the 2 words as you think about this future in 2025 of agentic workflows and all the other kind of media things that are getting talked about?
That's a really good question. As a joke, I was going to say generative AI. Absolutely not. I think it's grounded optimism. I say optimism for the obvious reasons. The world around us is changing. The pace of development is so exciting. If you're a small startup, you can now go and compete with incumbents. If you're an incumbent, you can get your team to work on incredible moonshots. But I say grounded because I think a lot of us are losing ourselves in the hype, right? We're planning to play the game, we're doing all the buzzy stuff, but AI is still just a tool. It'll be a supercharged productivity tool, and we'll have information at our fingertips. But the way we show up with one another, the way we carry ourselves, our ability to communicate, ironically, this is not even me Yoodli pitching, is all the more important now than it ever was. And I hope as we get into this weird future with God knows what possibilities AI can unlock, we still maintain our humanity and our groundedness.
Yeah.
I don't know. What
Yeah.
do you think?
That makes a lot of sense. I think there's a human side of this. And a lot of people are scared about getting replaced. And a lot of people want to stay valid, in a world where it seems like these tools are getting pretty smart pretty fast. And so this idea that they're going to be augmented and not replaced, I think is important.
And I think, to your point, also being true to ourselves, right? A lot of people will give you cool taglines like AI is not here to take your job. AI is taking some jobs. And I think this sense of groundedness means being honest about where you're going to take a hit, where you've got to evolve yourself, and where you do not want AI in your lives, and being really intentional about it.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and one of these days I want to bring someone on the show to talk about how jobs in America are going to be changing and what are some of the kind of real answers around it. And maybe there is just going to be a different sense of work. Maybe we just don't work as much. Maybe there's different kinds of ways that we provide income to ourselves, and maybe the government's involved. I'm not sure, but I think this is big enough that it's just going to look a whole lot different than the way we've been operating for the last 50, 100 years, and working the way that we do. And so I appreciate the honesty of it, because there's a lot of optimists. I'm an optimist too, but I want to be a realist at the same time.
Yeah, and I don't know where the balance is, right? Like, we want to be optimists, but we don't want our hubris or excitement in optimism to take away from who we really are, the society we're really trying to build.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Well, I'm really, really not only excited about officing with you soon, but I'm excited about the road that you guys are on and what you're doing. And I've always loved your energy, and I've always been excited that we have an ecosystem in Seattle that's producing companies like yours, and just very, very excited about where things are going with Yoodli. So Varun, thank you for being on the show again. And looking forward to seeing where this goes.
No, thank you for having me. And just, a hat tip to the Seattle community. It has been amazing just how welcoming everyone has been, from Madrona and the Allen AI folks to folks at GeekWire. There just seems to be a general rule in the Seattle startup space where if I ping someone cold with an SOS message, they will call. And It's so wonderful.
Yeah, it is amazing. Well, Varun, thank you very much. Again, excited for what you're doing, and I look forward to having you on again. We'll talk soon.
Hey, thank you so much.
That's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. Such a pleasure to have Varun back on the show to share his journey. His candid insights into Yoodli's evolution from the challenges of enterprise sales to building a strong company culture and the importance of staying grounded in the age of AI gives us a real window into the life of a founder scaling a startup. From their home at Seattle's AI House to their innovative approach to hybrid work with Vibes Week, we've seen how a young company can maintain its humanity while pushing the boundaries of technology. If you want to learn more about Yoodli's innovative work in AI-powered communication, training, or explore opportunities to join their growing team, you can reach them at info@yoodli.ai. I continue to be amazed by the guests we've had on the show, and I'm excited about the ones joining us in the near future. I truly appreciate you spending your time with us. Thank you for listening to this episode, and don't forget to subscribe to the Shift AI podcast for more exciting interviews, and to the Augmented Edge newsletter for updates on how AI can help you scale your business. The Shift AI podcast is syndicated by GeekWire, and we are grateful to have the show sponsored by Augmented AI Labs. Our theme music was created by Dave Angel.